And I'm actually going to get right into it. And you really want to know how. How can I blaze my own path? How can I be successful? How can I follow the path that someone else has laid for me to be successful?
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Yeah, man. Kev Hag.
Doing good, man. Just trying to stay cool.
True.
What's the weather like over there?
It's hot.
Yeah.
I don't know as far as right now, like in the afternoon, but it's pretty much hot. I can outside of like very humid and like an overwhelming heat of like just humidity where the air is really stuffy. It's just hot. So I try to get out after Fajr. Sometimes we take walks. We go to the park, let the girls get out and play, and me and my wife, we walk, get some exercise in around like the track or whatever, while it's not too hot outside. And that's about it. But other than that, man, stay in the house. It's too hot, man.
Yeah. I had one of my companions. He was off in Riyadh for a while. I said I had one of my companions who went over to Riyadh. He was working in Riyadh, and he sent some pictures back once of like it was 121, 122.
Yeah.
That was the yeah.
Yeah, it get hot like that, man. Honestly, you don't even have to turn your shower on hot. It could be on the cold. It could be on the coldest setting, and it's still hot, like blazing hot. You know what I mean?
Man.
They got, because out here, the water is not what you think. Like they have potable water, and some places have like fresh water. We call it sweet water. Some places have sweet water that comes into the house, but for the most part, nobody has sweet water. And even the potable water, you can't drink it. So they have these huge tanks that most of the time sit on top of the house, or like outside, or some rare cases they're underneath the house. So for the most part, they're outside, and very rarely does the owner cover it. It's like right there, the sun is just baking it all day. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So the water is just like hot. Like at nighttime, if you take a shower, like right now, it's like 2-something in the morning. If you take a shower right now, the water is cool. Like you can have like your little hot shower or your cold shower right now. But around like 12 o'clock in the afternoon, that joint is hot either way. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's going on out there? How's the weather? Matter of fact, you said you're in North Carolina, right?
Yeah.
So tell me about these reparations, man. The reparations y'all getting now.
No, that's not all of Carolina, just that town of Asheville. So so from what I understand, they're like making it kind of opportunity zone for the black people of that area. So business opportunities will be readily available, or they get the first opportunity, or contracts, housing, and things like that. So that's their form of reparation for that town, and just in terms of giving priority to their black residents there. From what I understand, it's not going to be any kind of like outright money or anything like that. Just acknowledgement, and then opportunities. To some degree, that could be a good thing, man. But oftentimes, man, especially in terms of entrepreneurship or even contracts, right? So as a black construction company, and you only have, say, 5 employees, and you got first dibs on the contract without question, but you just don't got the manpower to actually get the contract, right? So you could miss out on it from that standpoint. But
Yeah.
I mean, it's a step, man, and so you got to give them props where they do.
You know, this ain't the first time North Carolina gave reparations. They gave payments out to other North Carolinians as well. I know a guy who's he lives in Jersey. He goes to my mother's church I used to go to, and he was talking about that he gets payments. He either gets payments still or he got a payment.
Yeah.
Maybe like $1,000 or something. But you know, he's from North Carolina originally. So, you know, like people, like you said, it's a start. Me personally, I feel like we've been hearing that term since I've been on this earth. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Always a start in the right direction. You know, we making progress. And personally, like honestly, at this point, we're not looking for progress. Like me personally, I'm not looking for progress. I'm looking for something big. Like I'm looking for a real decision to be made. And it's funny that we're even having these, like, it is progress also because I'm surprised we're even having these hardcore conversations and things are moving. These moving parts are happening. And again, it's happening under the Trump administration. Like this is the wildest thing about it. For somebody
Yeah.
that's supposed to be racist and they supposed, you know, and isn't North Carolina a Republican state?
Yeah, I believe so. I'll say this, right? And
Yeah.
a lot of, I mean, because a person is president, right? He gets the credit or the criticism for what goes on during their administrations, right? And
Yeah.
on both ends, not all the time are those praises or those criticisms actually earned, right? A lot of what you see going on today, especially under this Trump administration, it's he was a catalyst for it, right? Meaning, because he emboldened, you know, a lot of white people to the way that he has, and there's been a lot of pushback to that, right? And in this pushback, there's been a lot of dialogue, right? And so, you know, what you see also is a lot of trying to correct the past. People are going and removing these monuments and changing names that you know, had tainted past, if you will, right? And so the dialogue has been created where people are in these spaces, whether they're comfortable or uncomfortable, where dialogue is going on. And when you're looking at history, pure history, and you want to judge it on that, then a lot of these things are emphatically undeniable, right? About the mistreatment of the African American population, right? And so you have these things going, and you know, alhamdulillah, you have some good people that want to try to make some kind of amends, right? And so, in that respect, you can put a check or X on Trump for this type of atmosphere happening, right? Yeah, so yeah, I don't. That's just how I look at it with regards to attribute anything to him. You know what I'm saying? More so than it's just work on the ground. And then within that community, being that Asheville isn't like one of the big metropolitan areas, you know, they in them small towns and counties, the people get to know each other, right? Your city councilman may be your uncle, right? Or, you know, you would go to school with his daughter and so on and so forth. And within that community, these type of things can happen, right? But on a larger scale, you don't see it, right? Like you can't even have a serious conversation about reparations, right? Whether it be a politician or if it's your common everyday white person, right? Because one of the things that you find about your average white person, right, or white people in general, right? When you talk about slavery, and I know you've heard this term before called white guilt, right? So when you talk to white people about slavery, the first thing that they say is like, yo, I'm not going to be held to account for something that my ancestors did. I didn't have nothing to do with that, right? So
Right.
you can't even have a serious conversation with some people because we don't want to even acknowledge the history, right? First and foremost, and the benefits that you've gained and received from just purely being white. One of the things this is very interesting when you talk about these in these discussions, and we're talking about freedom and equality, right? It's not even been a good 60 years since the civil rights bills was passed, right? Since segregation was actually ended, right? And when you were able to vote and go to a quote unquote integrated school that would give you, you know, the opportunity at a better education, right? Quote unquote, a better education, right? It's not even been a good 60 some odd years, right? And so when we're trying to talk about these things, we have to look at the facts. But what happens within these conversations is it's a lot of spin and deflecting, right? And so you can't even actually have a conversation because listen, how in the world are we talking about reparations, right? And then you start talking to me about black on black crime or some goofiness like that, right? Like, what does that got to do with anything?
Right.
Right? And so, you know, those are just my thoughts on it.
Yeah, I mean, when we talk about reparations, you know, white people and even some black people, they misunderstand who pays the reparations. Like they say things like my you know, I'm not going to be held responsible for the actions of my ancestors, but it's not you that's being held responsible. It's the government who's being held responsible for the actions of those people. You know, and when they say, you know, when they talk about us not going through those things, then that's where they put their foot in their mouths because they say, you know, none of the people living today went through slavery. However, all of the people that's white today benefit from the land grabs that they implemented, where they took the lands from the indigenous people and gave it to the white people. They gave them grants to learn how to farm, and they gave them farmlands, and that was their reparations. Because I always talk about the fact of the new information that I've learned about them people being slaves at one point. they were given, after they were taken out of being slaves, they were given lands, they were given grants. And Martin Luther King was arguing about the land grants that they were given, because he was saying that black people were supposed to be getting the grants and getting land. And he said, we coming to get our 40 acres and a mule. Like he said, with the March on Washington, we coming to get our check. That's what he said. We coming to get our check. So when he said we coming to get our check, he was arguing, he was complaining about the fact that they had given white people grants and free money and land and everything for farming. And they were importing people over here just for that. So for white people to talk about reparations and not even acknowledge their past, it's two things. It's one, because they're just hypocrites. But on the other side, it's that they don't really know for themselves. Like, they weren't taught that they were also benefactors of reparations. You know what I'm saying? Because it's not worded in that way. It's not worded as reparations, and it's not taught that they were slaves. You know what I'm saying? And black people don't even realize that white people were slaves.
You've heard of the NFAC?
NFAC. No.
Yeah. Look them up.
Yeah, the black group, not effing around.
Yeah. The head guy on there, whatever his name is, DJ something, Grandmaster DJ,
Grandmaster something.
Yeah. But I was listening to him, and he made some interesting points in terms of reparations and how do you actually go about it. Because one of the things that he pointed out, the government as a whole, and when you look at the U.S. government in terms of who they've given reparations to, whether it be Native Americans or the Japanese, and those are people that I can recall, they had independence and sovereignty, right? Because one of the things that he was pointing out is that the U.S. government isn't going to give reparations to a particular color, right? Meaning they're not just going to give it to black people, right? Now, for example, as an independent nation, we're just going to say Wakanda for the sake of our conversation, right? The independent nation of Wakanda, right, on behalf of what happened in terms of slavery and this, that, and the fourth, we say that the United States government owes us X amount of trillions of dollars, right?
Right.
And so when that process goes through, and then, you know, they're held liable for that, or they say, listen, we acknowledge our wrong, we'll give you the bread. And it'll go that way, right? But other than that, it's just gonna be a frivolous conversation, right? And you shared it, and we talked about it the last time that we was here. The only person that I've seen in terms of speaking of reparations that actually had a tangible plan, right, was Bob Johnson. And everybody else is just saying, I want my reparations, right? Without even really putting down any kind of blueprint of how this could actually be executed, right? And another thing that this guy was talking about, that it only sounds good in rhetoric, right? Where he's talking about the blacks in this country becoming their own sovereign nation, right? And he made a statement like, we'll take Texas, right? And we know for a certainty that that ain't never gonna happen. That's just not gonna happen. And even if blacks were to make exodus from this country, we'll just say the whole 7% of the population of African Americans made an exodus out of this country. Where are you going to go? You're going to end up just being a refugee in someone else's country. Everything is pretty much mapped off, and there's really no vacant piece of land that you can just go and acquire and build your nation from there. So, like, even in those terms, it's still just like a more so of a talking point than actually something that's really going to come to fruition.
See, it's now that they're actually having the conversation about reparations, and now there are more so-called black people engaged in a discussion. Now comes the curveball where you got these factions coming out of nowhere, and all of these leaders saying, you know, I'm leader of this, and this is the demand that we have. So you got Ice Cube, now you got the NFAC, and then you got I want to play this right here. This lady right here. This lady's declaration is the best that I've heard. When you talk about the Grand Master from the NFAC, first of all, he's a Grand Master. He's a Mason. So obviously, everybody ain't rocking with the Masons, you know. And I want to say this. Let me backtrack. Just because he's a Mason doesn't mean that we can't rock with him on this level, because this level is different from rocking with him per se. All right, so that's this is like the main issue with us with black people, because we're so divided or split into different factions. You just got black people in different denominations of faith-based systems, right?
Right.
Then you have those who don't even believe in reparations. Then you have those who they have an interracial marriage where they don't even identify with the black community. You know, they've kind of like stepped away. They might be like in a different tax bracket or what have you. So when you talk about the brother Grand Master saying, give us our own land or we're going to go somewhere else who will give us land, first of all, what are you talking about? Because like you said, ain't nobody giving him land for black people to move to. What do you bring, like, in today's time, what are you gonna move and benefit that country by so that they give you land? First of all, like I live out here, but I haven't only been looking for a situation in Saudi Arabia, and me either. Like there's other brothers out here, but we have these discussions like, yo, if Saudi ain't gonna work, what's the next spot? Like where can we go for freedom? Where can we go where, you know, we can set up shop? So brothers used to talk about Gambia when the brother Issa was the president. But you got out here, you got Indonesia, you got Malaysia, you know, that's Muslim countries or whatever. And you know, parts of Africa or whatever. So no matter in Ghana always comes up for
Ghana says it all the time, man. Right? Come back home. This is what the Guyanese people be saying. Like just come back here. Like, yeah.
But the problem is this. This is what I wanted to get to. Out of every place you're looking at, nothing is free.
No.
And Ghana is one of the most expensive places. Because I was looking at Ghana a while ago, like 5 years ago, before I got on all of this, you know, before I got on this train of thought, and you know, before I really started digging like this, I was thinking about Ghana, even just getting a job in Ghana. But looking at the rent, in Accra, yo, the rent is mad expensive. And then think about getting a job. You're not about to get a job in any of those countries over those citizens.
Right.
Unless you have some type of profession that is of high demand. And after that, the only way you're coming into those countries to work, to get land, is if you're an investor. And then you can get a citizenship, or you can get a passport if you buy land. So in many cases, you got to buy land or buy a house and then sit on that joint for like 6 months. You see what I'm saying? So nobody is giving you, nobody is about to give anyone, not just black people, nobody is giving anybody citizenship like that. The easiest spot, in my opinion, is right here in Saudi Arabia. You just got to have money.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like 200K, you get a lifetime e-commerce, a lifetime residency visa, and you become just like a regular Saudi citizen. That's the
Yeah.
cheap because 200K compared to like Malaysia, it's like I think it's like five. I think it may be 50 to 500K, but it's not lifetime. Nobody's
Yeah.
giving you lifetime. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So Saudi
Yeah.
is giving you lifetime. And the thing about Saudi giving you lifetime, they're in the process of building up. So if you get a lifetime joint and then you're like a regular citizen, that means they don't block you. There's no affirmative action that's stopping you from getting work. You know what I'm saying? Because right now, the affirmative action will stop you from getting a job. Where,
Mm.
like, I know a brother who's married to a Saudi, and he has like half Saudi citizenship. He gets
Hmm.
he can get a job just like he's a Saudi.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and he's from Canada or something like that. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that's the thing. Saudi is as many issues that Saudi has, and you know, I wouldn't really like. I wouldn't really. I would do the lifetime joint if I had the money like that, but I
Yeah.
wouldn't stay here all the time. I wouldn't stay here all the time. But
Yeah.
that's the only spot, yo. You know what I mean? That's the only spot I would really look at because everywhere else, Saudi you ain't gonna have the racism here like in Malaysia. Indonesia's economy ain't that good. You got it like to live in those like Malaysia has a good economy, but you're not getting a job out there. And then
Yeah.
Indonesia is beautiful, but they don't have an economy. You gotta have money. You know what I'm saying? To like live it to live good. And
Yeah.
then when you talk about Africa, me personally, all the Africans want to come to America. So why are we trying to run to Africa?
Just because of that though. But um it's two things though, right? Because I was listening to Akon right now. Keep in mind that Akon actually has the money for this, and in Senegal, he built a lot of infrastructure in terms of like like electricity and technology.
I
I think
know.
like cell phones or something like this, right?
Yeah, I
But
know. I know. I know all about it.
because he had the money to come in and as an independent person to build that infrastructure in that country, then he can come and get a piece of that pie quite easily. And like you were saying, um, if we were to mass exodus here, what do we have to actually contribute to that new society? So it would be different if all of the black engineers were making exodus, right? And so they bring their um, education and wherewithal from the U.S. and then they
Right.
come and they bring that to whatever said country that they may go to, and in that way they could be of a benefit to that country and help them grow in areas where they may have been lacking at in the first place. But that's just being like overly optimistic in terms of that, right? Because
Right.
on the large scale, it's not a bunch of black engineers, right? Or bankers. That makes sense as well. And so, especially when you're having these conversations, and I mean reparations, right? It's important that you try to come to realistic solutions. Like most of the world right now is pretty cultivated, right?
Right. Where you trying to
And
live?
right, you know what I mean? And so one of the things that Grandmaster J Dude did talk about, right? He talked about how within the U.S. each group has like a specific agenda, but within the black community, you don't have a set agenda. And so, just how Ice Cube put off that little memorandum of points, and he says that you get all of your black leaders together, and you say you have, and this is just an example, you have 10 to 15 points that are important to the black community, right? And then when the leaders sit down, they narrow it down to say the top 5 things that your senator or president or whomever it is that's soliciting your vote, that in order for you to get our vote and our support, these are the things that we're going to need from you, right? And what this does, it actually creates the black agenda, and it benefits the blacks or the African Americans in totality. Because like you said,
they did that. They did that with ADOS.
Because this is what you have to do, because within the community, like you mentioned, everybody has their agenda. And so, like you say, you got black people of different religious domination, different political beliefs, but overall they face the same struggle coming from that community, right? And so each one of these divisions shouldn't derail us from the overall goal.
This is the problem for the black community. When we look at these laws that get passed, every law that they pass that it looks like it's in our favor is actually putting us outside the system, and it's putting us in these cubby holes or in these categories like black, where black has no standing in law. I'm not black, I'm not African, I'm not any of that. I'm American, or I'm indigenous to the United States. I don't even want to say Indian, because Indian is another term. It's just like African American. And the Indians, the so-called Indians, got reparations. So the black people today won't be able to get reparations as an Indian, because the Indians already got reparations. That's what we was building. On this on another channel. And it's like, although, like you mentioned Oklahoma, I got family that I can't say my family went to Oklahoma, but I got family with the same name as some of the people that went to the Trail of Tears to Oklahoma. The real issues is like the Dawes Roll. If we can ratify the Dawes Rolls, then we change everything, because the only thing that keeps us out from being Indians and recipients of that fund that they get every month, or the money that they get from the land, is the fact that our names aren't on the Dawes Rolls. Because we're not on the Dawes Rolls, you're not Indian. But that doesn't mean you're not Indian. And Indian, like I said, is just a term. Nobody cares about the term Indian, because that was something that other people called us. You know what I'm saying? It's not what we call each other. So when we talk about that, and then we say, what's the plan for reparations, or what's the outcome for reparations? It's definitely about the land. It's not just about money, because the money is based on value, and the dollar has no value. Well, nobody wants that dollar. That dollar is about to go away. We want the land. I know for a fact my people used to have land, but in my particular case, I think it was like the great-great-grandfather or the great-great-great-grandfather at the time, like his second wife, who wasn't blood related to any of the children, she sold the land to some white guy, some white lawyer. You know what I'm saying? So they were sharecroppers. You know what I'm saying? This is like part of my history. You know what I mean? From my family. And then I would be a fool to think that I'm the only case like that. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Please. I know for a fact that my story ain't the only story. I ain't the unicorn in the room. All of us was like that for the most part. You know what I'm saying?
I was just doing some history, right? It just sparked my mind, because when I was younger, I tried to do the family tree. And the key thing in anyone looking up their family history is their grandparents, right?
Right.
And so I waited too long, or the interest never came to me, I should say, until both of my grandmothers passed away, right? And so when I was trying to do my own family tree in my head, I kept hitting the stump, right? I couldn't come up with my grandfather. So when I called one of my cousins, who's real acquainted with our family tree and things like this, and one of the things that she told me about my grandfather is that my grandfather actually grew up on the reservation, right? But she specifically said that he wasn't native, right? but he was brought up on the reservation, right? And so, like you say, that was his case, right? But what about those times where the quote unquote freedmen and the native women had children, and so on and so forth, right? Their offspring weren't put on those roles, right? In terms of who's native and who's not, right? Or even, just simply we were actually there, right? And we weren't taken down. And I remember they had a case not too long ago. I want to say it was in Charlotte. It was in Charlotte, where they went to the Supreme Court, I believe it was. No, it wasn't Supreme Court. The chiefs of the Cherokee Nations, right, remove all the freedmen off of the road, right? Yeah. So those freedmen who claimed being native, had children with natives, that they removed them off of them, right?
That's why I'm saying the Dawes rules has to be ratified because it's racist. It's a fact that they were selling Indian nationality. It's called the $5 Indians. It's a fact where white people was coming up and buying Indian nationality, and then just like the United States government puts people in place in like the Middle East and Africa, they put these puppets in place. They do the same thing with the Native American tribes here in America. So yeah. You have these tribal leaders, like the Seminole. My people are Seminole. So the Seminole leader is like this white dude. They look white. The people, like all these tribal leaders, they don't even look like the Redskin, okay, or the Black Hawk, or none of them are melanated. They're all looking white. So how is it that you are removing people or rejecting people from being included based on their blood, and you're just saying no because you have the sovereign right to do so, and then you're going to court and you're using legal matters to determine if somebody is Indian or not. It's all about money. It has nothing to do with truth. That's why for Black people, we can't bank on and just look at what the paperwork says. The paperwork doesn't mean anything. We have to know where our people were at a certain time. I posted an article by University of West Virginia. It was this thing called "All of My Slaves," and it was this story of this Black dude. I think he was a slave, and he ran into some Indians, and then he ran into this one Indian, and he took him back to the tribe, and they were gonna kill him, but it turned out he was well versed in Christianity, and they basically tested him. And when they found out that he was well versed in Christianity and he was sincere, they kept him around and even let him propagate the religion. Mm-hmm. But in the paper, it clearly talked about the Indians being brown and the African brother being brown. Like there was no way to tell the difference. You see what I'm saying? And we think we get so caught up in this color, thinking that because we are dark, we are not indigenous to the Americas, when on every old coat of arms or map, and they talk about American countries, you see a Black person on the freaking map. You know what I'm saying? All like out here, there's this coffee restaurant called Native, and they got the head of an Indian as their logo. I went in there one day because I was like, I gotta go in here. So I went in there one day just to look around. They got these. And it was disrespectful. I told the guy it was disrespectful. But they got Indian artifacts in the freaking cafe. Like they got, those old Sambo looking heads and stuff. They got all this Black history in there, yo. Like from the disrespectful woman with the big red lips and bald head to the Sambo looking joint to the dark skinned Indian with the tobacco pipe. And they got all this inside the restaurant, and I'm here in Saudi Arabia. Yeah. And I'm like, when I talk to the Saudis and I tell them like my truth, they be like, yeah, well, the white man, and they know the deal. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just us.
Beautiful people know true beauty is natural.
Beautiful people know true beauty is natural.
Wear their naturals proudly.
Wear their naturals proudly.
as a symbol of pride and blackness,
as a symbol of pride and blackness,
as a symbol of responsibility to black people,
as a symbol of responsibility to black people,
a responsibility to promote love and unity among black brothers and sisters,
a responsibility to promote love and unity among black brothers and sisters,
and help establish a new order of freedom and dignity for our people.
and help establish a new order of freedom and dignity for our people.
And that's the natural truth.